Welcome to Viewing and Reviewing, where I pull older movies off the shelf, watch them, and let you know if I believe they're worth your time to watch or not. I'm Bobby T, your online video store clerk, and I'll be searching through my VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray collection to find titles that I think may be interesting to review. In today's episode, I'll be reviewing 1985's Rustlers Rhapsody, written and directed by Hugh Wilson, and starring Tom Berenger, G.W. Bailey, Mary Lou Henner, and Andy Griffith. Let me read you the DVD cover. Rustlers Rhapsody is a hilarious parody of the old small-screen singing western directed by Hugh Wilson of Police Academy fame. It tells the story of Rex O'Hurlihan, a singing cowboy who, immaculately dressed upon his wonder horse Wildfire, rides into town to clean it up and then rides out again. He carries a guitar and orders milk at the local saloon, and when he finds out that it's not that sort of bar, orders a large gin with a human hair in it instead. Supporting Rex on every move is Peter, the town drunk, who aspires to become his sidekick. Rex is a good guy who plays his guitar and only shoots the bad guys in the hand. However, the bad railroad baron doesn't like good guys, so he hires Bob Barber to see Rex out of town. I'd had a hard time deciding what this film really was. Was it a satire, a parody, a lampoon? I know that's basically being picky about my language since they're fairly close to the same thing. So I'm thankful to the marketing department who made it clear it is a parody. And what a good one. I've watched this film several times over the decades, and I didn't realize it was written by the director of Police Academy until I watched the trailer you're watching right now. That makes a lot of sense, since Police Academy has about the same kind of humor while lampooning the police as this hilarious western. The beauty of a good parody is its self-awareness that it isn't meant to be serious, but every actor plays it straight. Tom Berenger's innocent 1930s B-serial singing cowboy Gene Autry caricature couldn't be more stark than comparing the violent 1960s Clint Eastwood-inspired spaghetti westerns. Berenger knows he's a good guy that can't do anything to tarnish that reputation. No matter if it's the town's prostitute with the heart of gold has the hots for him, or it's the evil cattle baron's beautiful daughter Berenger rescues, throwing herself at him over a campfire in the moonlight, or even when a competing good guy makes an obvious sexual overtones about Berenger's masculinity. For a western that's usually a man's film medium, there sure was a lot of homophobia back in the day. Now, Andy Griffith deserves a lot of credit for his outrageous take on the cliched evil cattle baron. Most of the time, we're given someone we're supposed to hate opposite our clean-cut hero. But in this film, Andy was so gleeful in his zeal to murder old Tom and his silly sidekick, we completely buy into the fact that he's not really a bad guy, but someone who's learned to exist in his little evil world by being a misunderstood closeted millionaire who just wants to have milk and cookies with his less than enthusiastic henchmen. It's a clever take we'd never seen in film to that point. But I gotta say, one of the main highlights among so many is G.W. Bailey's take as the town drunk turned enthusiastic but idiotic sidekick / narrator. As silly as Bailey was as the dastardly Captain Harris in the Police Academy films, he gets the chance to finally play one of the good guys in this film, and he knocks it out of the park. As perfect as Berenger is as the perfect hero, Bailey's Peter goes through the ringer while learning the ropes as the clueless sidekick. And I think that's what makes this film so wonderful, is its desire to be more than just a parody. It feels like the entire cast, both the good and the bad guys, are having as much fun as the others, and the audience is in on the joke. They're aware it's all for fun, and that's what makes this film so special. So, my overall report card of the film, it looks like this. Does it stand the test of time? You know, I was wondering this same thing after not seeing it for about 15 years. This is remarkably fresh. I'll give this an A because the parody is about a nearly 90-year-old genre of B-movie cowboy serials that only get more silly the older they get. This was a perfect lampoon. The story. This is an A- because it's exactly the same story in every Roy Rogers and Trigger story you've ever seen. It even references itself as such multiple times in this sharply written spoof. It's a comedy serial that in the opening minutes realizes its own goofiness and decides to rip the audience out of the 1930s and throw us directly into the present view of westerns with a jolting realism. It's laugh-inducing flip-flopping of stereotypes where good guy Rex has to battle the ever-bumbling bad guys led by two colonels who are vanquished at every turn in hilarious fashion. Allowing Rex's character to know the future was a clever plot device to make sure he was always one step ahead of the bumbling bad guys. So when monkey wrenches get thrown in at Rex, he isn't always prepared for them. When the evil no-gooders finally do come up with a truly dastardly plan that confuses Rex, in more ways than one, the final battle makes itself into one of Western's funniest finales this side of Blazing Saddles. Plus, the script is so sharp that the characters realize they don't have an option to deviate from their individual role requirements, so they just learn to exist in their combined shackles, so why not just have a ball with it, even if Rex is going to shoot him in the hands again for the bloodless third time. The cast. This is an all-star cast worthy of an A grade. Berenger's perfect as the too-good-to-be-real Rex. Bailey wears his sidekick's outrageousness like a badge of honor, and he couldn't be any better. Mary Lou Henner and Celia Ward as the competing lovelies for Berenger's attention make for a difficult decision who's more enticing. And guest starring surprise by John Wayne's son Patrick Wayne as a formidable foe for Berenger was inspired casting. And it looks like Patrick is having the best time playing the character. And even though the rest of the cast is excellent at every turn, I believe the best of the best has to be Andy Griffith, playing completely against type. This ain't Mayberry RFD's Sheriff Taylor. His colonel is so over-the-top silly, it took a masterful actor to walk the fine line between being too offensive in his portrayal and instead earn the audience's love as the guy we're supposed to love to hate, but end up loving him more in the end. The cinematography. Now, I've complained in some of my reviews that filmmakers don't always understand the genre they're filming. However, in Rustlers Rhapsody, the filmmakers knew exactly what they were filming. This is an A+, not because it's going to win an Oscar, but because it took a 1930s Gene Autry serial and turned it into Silverado in the blink of an eye. Then continued adding in authentic trains, western towns, using sound effects, then making sure the audience knew why we were seeing and hearing what was on and off screen, so we never lost sight of the joke. Plus, it was only 1985, so no CGI. This was parody par excellence. The music. You know, even the odd title of the film is a play on words. There aren't any rustlers, and it definitely ain't a musical rhapsody. I'm going to give this a solid B though. Not because you need to buy the soundtrack, which please don't, but they knew what kind of film this was and they ran with it. Rex's goofy songs were perfectly lame and storyline advancing. The background music always set the tone exactly right for what was on screen, and their choice for the end credit song of Last of the Silver Screen Cowboys sung by Rex Allen Jr. actually made me a little misty as a nostalgic look at old westerns I used to watch with my dad when I was young. So, based on the above scores, I'm going to give this film an A- as a parody. There are funnier and sillier parodies like Airplane and Blazing Saddles, but those wonderful films tended a little more into the dirtier adult humor that this film tried really hard not to fall into. Now, this is a film you could watch with your younger children without too many awkward moments that require explaining. I will say this film does go a little far with the gay jokes, but it's a sign of the times rather than making too much fun of it. Rustlers Rhapsody is a funny, joyful, and mostly innocent take on old westerns that desperately needed a lampooning. Great, violent, and gritty westerns like Unforgiven and Pale Rider may be superior westerns, but this film makes me smile from beginning to end without ever feeling heavy. It's an adorable love letter to Roy and Jean in the golden age of Hollywood we don't see much of today. It's a true classic that deserves to be rediscovered. I hope you'll enjoy it as much as I do, if you can ever find it. So, here are a few other comedy westerns worth watching. Support your local sheriff. I loved this as a kid. James Garner plays the super fast and super lazy gunfighter who visits a comically infused gold rush town at the height of its good fortune at the precise time a family of bad guys decide they're gonna own the rough and tumble town, come what may. When Garner is lassoed into becoming the sheriff to clean up the town, despite everyone's best efforts to run him out of town. Jack Elam's lovable town drunk, the zany town council, and not to mention the pretty mayor's daughter, all chip in to help the sheriff in his time of need from the final showdown with an army of baddies. Plus, seeing how Garner keeps an evildoer like Bruce Dern in a jail so brand new it doesn't even have bars yet is an absolute hoot. Next is Back to the Future Part 3. Yes, you will want to have watched the first 2 episodes of this fantastic time travel comedy series, but after nearly 40 years, I'm assuming most of you folks out there have seen them. But part 3 has the same tongue-in-cheek comedy reality we see in Rustlers Rhapsody. There are tons of cliches that are turned on their head with a modern twist that makes the Old West seem funnier now than it ever was. Plus, seeing Marty and Doc playing drugstore cowboys while sporting the stupid cowboy name of Clint Eastwood is always worth watching again. And because it really is the greatest Western parody of all time, I have to recommend Blazing Saddles here. The comic story of a black man hired as sheriff of an all-white Western town when everyone expects him to be murdered is one of Mel Brooks's best films and a canon of great send-ups. The underrated Cleavon Little, God rest his soul, is fantastic as the cheerful hero of the story. But the incredible supporting cast of Gene Wilder, Harvey Korman, Madeline Kahn, Slim Pickens, and Mel Brooks himself makes this film the great one for a reason. If you haven't seen it, don't even think about it. Just go out and buy it. You can thank me later. Well, that's it for Rustlers Rhapsody. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click on the like button below. If you want to keep up to date on my future reviews, please click on the subscribe button below. If you want to purchase Rustlers Rhapsody on DVD, since it was never released on Blu-ray, or if you wish to purchase any of the other titles I've mentioned earlier, please follow the Amazon links below. If you have any suggestions for movies you'd like me to review, please leave a comment below, and I'll see what I can do. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, be sure to help others in need because it's always the right thing to do. Have a great week.